Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve, our first live stream of 2022. It only took us till February 2nd to
Two.
22.
I
Oh, that's
love it.
weird. We didn't even plan for that, did we?
I know. That's pretty
We
cool.
should have done it at 2 o'clock. We would have been
I
like,
know, right?
"Stop."
That would have been awesome.
Well, so we've had a couple of episodes, Dr. Asha, and we had to record those because our schedules have been so busy. Well, mainly yours because you're like an
Mainly
in
yours.
demand all the time. Everybody wants a piece of Dr. Asha. Me, not so much. I would have just been here by myself, just talking. But
Not true.
how you been?
Good, good. How are you, Steve? We were just talking before you hit live about Groundhog's Day. Today's Groundhog's Day in the US.
Yeah. Do I see my shadow? Yes, I see my shadow. I don't know what that means.
I think it's 6 more weeks of winter.
Oh, I thought it was my
Yeah.
lights were just too bright.
One or the other.
Yeah, I forgot it was. That's how busy I've been today, which is kind of
Yeah.
part of our topic. I mean, we're going to talk about feeling overwhelmed and how to combat that. But I didn't even know today was Groundhog's Day. I guess I should.
Yeah.
Why did they make it on the 2nd and not on the 1st?
I don't know. Actually, you know what? I have not read too much about it.
Yeah.
I know that it started back in the 1860s. That's the only thing I know about it, but I have no idea. We should look it up.
So, and you just said they just killed the other
They
Phil.
didn't kill
The
us.
Phil.
What was his name? Wilbur or Milton? The
Phil.
previous groundhog?
Punxsutawney Phil.
Oh, was it Phil? Oh, was it Phil?
Oh,
Sorry.
maybe they call him Wilbur at where you are from. I don't know where
They
you're
don't
at.
have. They don't even have groundhogs here. That doesn't exist here. Like
Really?
the actual animal doesn't exist. Whenever I was talking about it, people were looking at me going, "What the heck is a groundhog?" Like, he lives in the ground. They're like, "We have no idea what you're talking about." So
I don't know. Whatever they pull out of the cage every year, it looks
poor
very
thing.
unhappy.
I know exactly. I don't know. I don't know all the background about it. We should look it up and see sometime.
Yeah, I don't really
Yeah,
want to know that much.
doesn't matter.
I mean, I like the Bill Murray movie Groundhog's Day, but
Yeah, and I tell you what, sometimes life feels like Groundhog's Day
yes.
for sure.
Which
Just
how do we plan that any better? We're on 2
I
to
know
22 on Groundhog's Day, and we're talking about the feeling of overwhelm, which is like
exactly,
having Groundhog's Day play over and over and over.
exactly. It's true. So
Yeah.
I mean, Steve, overwhelm. Let me ask you something.
Robert said rodent.
Rodent. Yes.
Robert has a ranch, and I guarantee you there are no groundhogs anywhere on that ranch because he would
Yeah.
help them find their shadow real quick.
Exactly. Would he like whack them like whack-a-mole? But
That should be a thing. Whack-a-mole day. I mean,
yeah, sure, you can apply for it. Sure, why not?
yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about overwhelm.
Yeah.
This is going to be kind of a short episode for our live stream because you're in demand and I've got a dentist appointment to go to.
Yours sounds like so much fun.
No fun. But I don't know if you're seeing it or you're hearing it from people, but I have heard from a number of our viewers
Mhm.
that ever since the beginning of the year, and I don't know if it's that we've got this continued COVID hangover, if it's just something energetically, don't know what the circumstances are,
Mhm.
but we have people that are really feeling, like there's just a tremendous amount of pressure and overwhelm as we start 2022. Are you seeing or hearing the same thing? And if so, what are you thinking or saying is causing it?
I mean, you know what, Steve? I think you hear it all the time. I mean, have I been hearing it any more than usual? Not really.
Okay.
But I will tell you that we are in kind of a weird kind of time frame right now because we are 2 years into this lingering, you
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
lingering thing. And we're all tired of it.
Hmm.
We're all just like, you know what? Oh my God. And it was interesting because I was having a conversation with a client just before we started our live today
Yeah.
about how he was having difficulty even thinking back to what it was like before COVID, before the pandemic. That's getting like a distant, very, very distant
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think what happens is that we're kind of in limbo right now. And so that causes like
Yeah.
this kind of panic. So I think part of it is that. Um, and to be honest with you, I think a lot of the overwhelm, a lot of the pressure we create ourselves.
Yep. Well, I've been feeling
Yeah.
overwhelmed, and so you're
Yeah.
saying it's all a figment of my imagination,
No,
or
it's not your imagination. No, but what I mean by that is, like, okay, like, talk about your overwhelm, Steve. You're feeling overwhelmed, but how do you experience your overwhelm? Like,
so
what
it's
do you
it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. So I do get and have had it. It does seem to happen at this time of year.
Okay.
Kind of feel like you start the year off, it's kind of that refresh, that reset.
Mhm.
This year, it seems like, man, I was playing catch up from the minute the new year kicked over.
Yeah.
And for me, it's, there are so many things that are sort of distracting me right now, trying to get
Mhm.
a piece of my time or to, have me pay attention to. I've got a number of projects that require not my full attention, but need
Mhm.
some of my attention. But if you combine that across all the projects, then
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, it's feels like more than a full-time job. And it's kind of
Right.
across the board, whether I'm working on some new stuff for Ripple, I'm working on stuff for my software companies, people trying to get time on my schedule and book sessions, trying to kick some events off, do some things. And
Yeah.
all of these little things that just keep chirping at my attention, which is kind of ironic because we just talked about how, on our last episode, right, that we
Mhm.
recorded, sort of how do you find that flow? And I
Yeah.
kind of felt like, oh, okay, I was there, but now I'm not so much there. And so
Right.
as we started talking about this episode, I've been talking to people about it, and everybody was like kind of like that. They are all feeling it, right? And I don't know if
Yeah.
it's kind of an energetical, shift. I don't even know if that's a word,
Yeah.
an energy shift in some capacity, if it's an attention challenge, or now you're kind of into, and we talked about this time last year, people get into sort of these dark days of winter.
Yeah.
And so everything that tends to happen, good or bad, seems to be compounded because of the time of year.
No, definitely. I mean, there are those external factors. There's a lot of them. And
Yeah.
I think that it really is about what do you do? First of all, what do you prioritize? You have to prioritize whatever it is. I mean, the numerous things that are going on, you have to prioritize it because, yes, like in your case, what you're talking about, you need to be a part of so many different things,
Yeah.
and that can be overwhelming. But the main thing that I always see, and I always recommend, not only for my clients and patients, but for myself as well, is that you've got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to make your health and your well-being a priority because when you feel better, like when you physically feel better and healthy, you can tackle so much more, and you don't the overwhelm doesn't like run you over. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
it's like that takes priority, getting a good night's sleep, eating really well, doing all the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, exercising, maybe seeking, chiropractic care or acupuncture or any of those things to really help keep you balanced. It really does make a difference.
It does. Well, and
Yeah.
I will say I experienced that earlier this week. So I was feeling had a conference on Monday, Tuesday, but Monday I was
Mhm.
just like could tell I was out of sorts, and there were a lot of things that required my attention when I got back from the conference,
Mhm.
and I just had to say, nope, I'm going to put these to the side,
Yeah.
and I need to go to the gym, like because I had to be at the conference super early. I
Yeah.
didn't get my morning workout in, but I went, I ran, I got my head clear, and then I could come back and actually put my energy towards the things I really wanted to tackle that day. And
Exactly.
then rather than feeling like I had to do it all at one time, I sort of said,
Yeah.
"Hey, these are the things I can do tomorrow as I have time." And I shifted some things around, and then I also sort of responded to a few things that are like, "Hey, look, if this can wait, I'll be
Yeah.
back in the flow on Wednesday, Thursday. If it can't wait, please let me know." I had a proposal for a client that I was working on, and they were putting some pressure on me to get it done, and I'm like, well, I've got only so much time that I can dedicate. I really do want to think through some of these ideas and solutions a
Yeah.
little bit more. I can certainly put together some preliminary stuff for you. However, I don't think it'll be as good or as well thought as it could be. So if you give
Yeah.
me until Wednesday morning, I think I can give you a much better idea. Sent that
Right.
proposal this morning, and they came back and they were like, "I'm so glad you took the extra time, and this is definitely something we
Exactly.
want to talk about." So I do think that, in the moment I recognized it, but I'm wondering for the rest of our viewers, how do you recommend people identify when they're maybe not putting that word overwhelm in their current situation? How do they start to see some of those symptoms of being overwhelmed? And what do you do, or what do you suggest they do when they start to experience it?
I mean, I think for everyone, the symptoms are can be quite different, can be, but one of the things that I always see with a lot of my clients, especially my coaching clients, is that they're not able to sleep, or
Mm,
that they're feeling like they're actually burning the candle on both ends. I mean, they really, really are, and they are
yeah,
like really, and they're finding it difficult. They're having to work even that much harder to find solutions to things or be creative. It's like, okay, that is like a
like a
big
chore for them to have to do it, right?
yeah,
Feels
exactly,
like a chore.
exactly, and
Yeah,
so that's like a huge, huge indicator right there. Also, if you're feeling irritable or if you're feeling very, very tired too, it's true, right, Steve? It's like
yeah,
one of those things that is an indicator that you're doing way too much, and you're trying to just and your focus is really, really, really going nowhere. I mean, when you're in that
yeah.
case, it's like you cannot really truly 100% focus on one task at all. So those are the things that you want to watch out for. Also, you know what? People in your environment will tell you. I mean, especially if we don't like to hear it, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, like, especially when it's family or loved ones, you're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, but
Oh, wait, it's not just me that does that? Wait.
but I mean, wouldn't you say, Steve? I mean, those are the things. And my thing is that again, it's one of those things that you've got to be ahead of that. You've got to be able to be ahead of that by having your own disciplines, things that you do to take care of yourself, to make sure that you don't let it get to that point. Of course, life is going to happen. Things are going to happen. Things are going to throw you off, and it's going to be, but you've got to be able to be kind of ahead of the game with that and figure out what it is that you need to do to take better care of yourself.
So you had said earlier, you're not really hearing this, but do you sense like, is this kind of I don't want to say cyclical or seasonal kind of thing, but do you see more of this happening at certain periods of time, in the year more so than not ever? Or,
I I actually don't, Steve. It's very interesting. Like, I think that there was a time that I used to see it at a particular time or a particular, season or whatever, but
Mhm.
I actually see it throughout now. And this is something I have noticed though, since we've been going through this COVID thing, is that it is definitely something that is kind of a continuum that's just there because there's too
Yeah,
much uncertainty, too much of the unknown. We're having to navigate, and I mean, I know what, like, wherever I am, we've really had many more lockdowns in the US, and we've had so many things going on here that people are really disrupted
yeah.
and people are more anxious. So it's kind of been a continuous kind of thing that's been going on, I think. So I wouldn't say that there's a season for it anymore in a way. I know that sounds strange. I
Especially
mean,
now with,
I mean,
yeah.
especially now. I mean, but what about you? Are you seeing it as a seasonal thing?
Well, I think it does tend to be seasonal for me in certain
Okay.
respects, and I think if I was better mentally prepared for a certain, being a little bit more prepared and ready to respond when I start to see the signs. The problem is I'm already in the thick of it by the time I recognize the
Exactly.
signs,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people struggle in that capacity. But I do see it for some of my coaching clients at various times where the anxiety is ramped up, their attention or level of detail that they may be putting into things are a little bit more challenged, and
Yeah.
there's a lot more frustration that tends to happen. And I do think, like you said, if you can find some telltale signs that you can determine that you're starting to move down that road and make
Yeah.
some and take some corrective action, all the more better. Robert actually just made a really astute comment on Facebook. He
Yeah.
said, find some me time, step back
Yes.
and take a deep breath and look what you have ahead of you and prioritize your time.
Yeah.
When you prioritize the time, you've got a little more control over your schedule. You've got a little bit of understanding what you've got coming up. And
Yeah.
ultimately, at the end of the day, it allows you to kind of control what you're willing to let in and what you're willing to hold out as much as
Yeah.
possible. And I do see that, and a lot of times, we get overwhelmed when we get too much on our plate. There's too many things coming at us. And I know for
Exactly.
me, um, it usually starts small or slow, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it ramps up like 90 to nothing, right? So when you start to see that, I think Robert's suggestion, and of course your suggestion as well, is find those opportunities, take a step back,
Yeah.
reevaluate, reassess, and kind of like what we talked about in the past, find those people that can help you take care of some of the stuff
Yeah.
that is added to your plate that you really don't need to be dealing with. Great
Exactly.
comment, Robert. I
Delegating.
definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, no, definitely delegating. And I think prioritizing is key. I mean, that's one of those things, though, Steve. It's like, we get bombarded with so many emails and stuff, and we have to even prioritize that. What
Yeah.
do we answer? What's important? Where do I need to be spending my time? Where do I want to spend my time? And not, just being ahead of that and being able to really at that moment kind of sift through it, because we're in a society that if you don't answer within 2 minutes, or not even to 2 minutes is even long, within
Hey, did you
15
get my
seconds.
email?
I know, exactly. Within like
Maybe that's just
15
me hitting
seconds.
you up on Instant Messenger, right? Hey, I just sent you an email. Did you get a chance to read it?
But I
No,
mean,
because you sent it 30 seconds ago. No, it's
but that's the thing. It's like we're in that mode. But you know what? It's okay to what are you laughing at, Steve?
I'm just like, yeah.
Just
I
like
was just thinking about I probably have done that to you. I don't
I
know.
probably have too, though. But you know
Yeah.
what's great is that we're on two different time zones, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really we don't even notice it.
Yeah. Now I feel like I have to check my email at like 4 o'clock in the morning, though, because you probably sent me something from the future. It's like 10
Yes.
o'clock your time. It's like Robert said he learned what his me time from an old customer that wrote a darn good book.
Mhm.
I don't know who that was.
I
That guy sounds like a
wonder.
genius, or that gal. It sounds like a genius. Well, and it's funny you said that, like about emails, right?
Yeah.
So I was just talking to somebody about this. That's why the topic was kind of near and dear to me. Is we actually are the creators of our own environments. Like for the
Yep.
email perspective, if you feel compelled that you have to like be on top of your email, it's got to be open all the time, and you got to respond
Yeah.
so quickly, then you're basically reacting to everything, not controlling and managing. And then if you think of all the other things that you deal with, all the social channels,
Yep.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all these things and all these different input zones where people have an opportunity to, whittle away. Well, that adds a
Mhm.
whole, just those four areas, right?
Yep.
Those three social networks and your email can just eat up a tremendous amount of time,
Yes.
and that can cause a level of anxiety to make you feel overwhelmed. Then you add people that leave you voicemails, people that text
Yeah.
you, and those are all things that people are saying, pick me, you need to pay attention to me, and my
Yeah.
stuff is more important than anybody else's stuff. And I think, for me, what I've tried to do is I've tried to create boundaries. And when people are like, oh, I didn't know if you got my email, it's like, well, I try to check my email just a couple of times a month, a couple of times a month.
That would be awesome.
That would be freaking awesome. But a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
And some things I try to, kind of batch things that I know I can respond to later.
Exactly.
I'm going to leave them. Things I need to leave unread, so they're definitely top of the funnel in terms of my attention. I think
Mhm.
is kind of key. But I've just tried to not be that reactionary to
Yeah.
emails, which can be tough. You're growing a business, or your team depends on responses. Like you open up corporate, kind of the corporate environment. Now you have Slack and you have all of
Yep.
these other tools that are really designed to like make you more efficient, but really it just makes you beholden to everybody else.
Exactly.
And so that sense of overwhelm, just by what you're sort of having to shoulder that load from what other people's expectations are,
Mhm.
then couple it with whatever you're being asked to do day to day from a work perspective, right? It
Yeah.
just can be like crazy.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. And I think that that's where it becomes even more important. Really prioritize, delegate the things that you can, and take some time out for yourself. Really schedule that. Steve, do you schedule time for yourself every day? Like, do you schedule your
I
time
do.
time
Yeah.
out? Yeah.
I go to the gym in the morning, and then when I get into the office, although I've been really bad about it since the
Mhm.
beginning of the year, which is also part of probably why the overwhelm and stress kind of just caught up with
Mhm.
me, was that I was getting in, and the first thing I'd do is I would, meditate, focus a little time on journaling and sort of reading something that, had some value to me in my work and what I was
Yeah.
doing. But I didn't have this pressing need to like pop open the laptop and respond. The problem with it is since the beginning of the year, I kind of got away from a little bit of that practice. I've been doing it for daily for years now, right?
Yeah.
And my stress level had dropped significantly. And what I noticed
Yeah.
is by not doing it, my stress level has gone way, way up, right? And
Yeah.
so trying to find an opportunity to do that, and like I said, when I recognize that I've got so much stuff going on, sometimes I'm just going to tell people, hey, look, I can't get back to you today, or
Exactly.
it's going to be a couple of days before I can, respond to this, but I will take time out and just walk away from the office if I have to. Because, if I've got so much stuff coming at me here within my walls, when I go outside, yeah, it's still here when I come back. But at the end of the day, that's what allows me to free up my mental capacity to work on
Exactly.
the next problem and what's my next good decision that I need to make,
Yeah.
for my life or for my business. And you can only do that when you get some clarity of thought. And so
Yeah, that's true.
you have to remove yourself from that distraction.
Yeah, that is very, very true.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
What's the like so for your perspective, the
Mhm.
lowest point that you've ever had where you just totally felt overwhelmed? What did you do to just did you take a time out? Did you, hey, I'm
Mhm.
booking a vacation right now and I'm out? Or how did you handle it? Because I think for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, in a perfect world, if I was an entrepreneur like you, I could do those things, but I have a boss or I have job
Yeah.
responsibilities or I have the family commitments and my time is not my own, my schedule is never my own. So how do you respond to that? And then at your lowest point, when you really felt overwhelmed, what was the one thing you did to get yourself back on track?
I mean, to answer that question, Steve, I just had something that happened in December
Yeah,
where I literally had to just cut off
yeah,
from everything. I
yep,
had to. I had no other choice. It was a very serious matter. And the thing is, but here's the thing with it, because I had to do that, like there was no other choice. Thank God I had other systems and other
yeah,
things in
yeah,
place that could allow things, certain things, not everything, but most things to go ahead and function even without me being, up front and center, available all the time. And I was very open and honest with my team as well. I am not available. I'm sorry, but this is just something that I just cannot be available. And they understood it. They understood
uh,
it and they did whatever they could. And I trust them to do whatever, and I mean, of course, whenever I could be in touch, especially with important things that I had to have a say in it, of course, I did it as soon as I could. But and I know that not everybody has that luxury to do that,
yeah,
to just take a time. However, I do think that it's a matter of whatever you're facing, you have to ask yourself, how important is this to you? Like, and whether it's a health issue or whether it's whatever it is, you've got to just kind of be upfront and honest with yourself first. And then I don't think it's a bad thing to be able to go to your boss, to go to your higher up and say, listen, this X, Y, and Z is what's going on for me right now. If I don't take a time out, I'm headed towards a burnout, which is going to be even worse for the company or worse for the team. Can we come, together and figure out a way that will give me some time and space to work on whatever I need to, and also be there, for the team.
yeah. Actually, Jamie from NYC, just New York City, prepare
Yes,
for overwhelm before it happens.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Build your infrastructure, build your
Yeah.
support resources, have those people in place so that when you do have to take that step back,
Yeah.
you can rest, comfortably knowing that things are
Yeah.
being handled in your absence. I think that's ideal. And I do think, and you mentioned something, I just had a conversation with one of my, guys from my software team yesterday
Hmm.
about one of our employees, and we're trying to, get a backfill hired and add
Right.
some bench strength. And he said, my biggest concern is overwhelm or is actually burnout, right? And
Yeah.
there are certain days that this individual feels overwhelmed, wants to control him or not control it, that's the wrong word, but more or less show he can handle it. So he won't
Exactly.
ask for help. And so I kept saying, hey, look, we need to constantly remind him, when you get to the point and you feel like you don't have the answer, don't know, rather than keep beating your head against the wall, we have to build that infrastructure of a team. But I
Exactly.
agree, we definitely need to hire some additional capacity to take some of that load off so that
Yeah.
that person doesn't feel overwhelmed, because overwhelm actually is really another word for helplessness, right?
Yes.
And hopeless.
Hmm.
And so you really want to be able to get around and pass that as quickly as possible. And it's so much better when you can raise your hand and say, look, I need help and I need
Exactly.
that guidance. And so thinking about that scenario that just happened yesterday, and then, what you just mentioned, I think one of the key things, if you're not like a boss or you're not in a leadership
Hmm.
position or you're not running your own thing, you need to have some really strong conversations with your immediate manager and your teammates
Yeah,
and say, look, when you're feeling it, I want to be there to help you. And when I'm feeling it, I want to feel
exactly.
confident that I can be there for you as well. And I think that's really important. Create those, those situations where
Yeah,
it's going to happen. Everybody knows it. Everybody can recognize
every
it. So
exactly.
can we be there for one another to help each other through those times? Sometimes it's, picking up the slack. Sometimes it's taking on the project. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
just, hey, God, I just need to vent. I need to get this off my chest.
exactly.
Overwhelm comes in all sorts of, shapes and sizes, right? But
Yeah.
it's still, at the end of the day, it can be a crippling, it can be really a crippling state that you put yourself in.
Definitely. And you know what, Steve, about having that, whether, you have your own business or whether you're working, having that network of people, having each other's back and working together as a team in whatever capacity, it is part of that preparation. You prepare for those things by doing that.
Yeah. Jamie just said, amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to show that twice, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think if you can prepare for it, you can always, what do they say about that? You can, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right?
Yeah.
Same's
Yeah.
true. You're never going to be 100% on your game all the time. Overwhelm's going to happen. So what
Exactly.
can you do to create the structure, the infrastructure around
Yeah.
yourself so that when those things start to happen, you have those people that are on speed dial that'll be there to help you out. You've got those teammates that you're working with, or you've got, the ability for you to say, hey, look, I got to take a time out.
Exactly.
Nothing personal. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. However, I've got a number of things on my plate right now, and I need to just start taking them
Yeah.
one at a time. And I think, kind of to the point, right? When we were talking about all the things that just chirp at us and require our,
Hmm.
we build or we kind of build our own situation where those things happen, and if we feel like we're a slave to everybody else's time schedule, we're
Hmm.
never going to ever get to a point where we feel comfortable to dictate how we spend and manage our own time.
Exactly. That's why I think you have to be the master of your agenda.
Yeah,
Like you have to be. It's very easy to hand it off to a secretary or to an assistant, which I'm
yeah,
not saying that they can't do that, but you know what? It has to be on your terms. It
yes.
really does.
Well, and I think, the last point I'll make on this is that you really have to understand what your terms are, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that was the whole reason we wanted to bring this up today is, it's one thing to understand that it's going to happen and may happen multiple times throughout the year.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have a game plan for when it happens, but you also have to understand, when do I recognize I've pushed my limits, right? Or I've reached my limits.
Exactly.
And what do I do when that happens? And I think there's, an opportunity for you to have an open, honest dialogue with yourself and just ask yourself, in those moments where I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I'm just like powerless, what caused that? What
Yeah.
were the circumstances that arose? How much of that did I let happen or I could have controlled to make not happen?
Yeah.
And then who do I need to engage when those things start to occur so that I've got somebody that's pulling me out of the pit of despair when it
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's
I
true.
know for you and I mean, we have the tendency, like, if, stuff's hitting the fan, we have a tendency to, pick up the phone or call each
Yeah.
other, get on a Zoom call, and we calm each other down a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's so essential, and you can't, you just cannot underestimate the value of having that person that's there and just
True.
checking on you. Hey, Facebook or whatever,
Yeah.
a text here or there. Hey, are you doing okay? I hadn't heard from you in a while. Those things, they make a
Exactly.
difference, right? Especially if you're in the muck. And
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference, that's for sure.
well, this is, we always have these great conversations. It's great to be back live streaming with you.
Yes.
We will be back. I think next week we're both in town, so we're going to figure out the day, and
Yes.
we'll come back with another interesting conversation topic. But before we jump off, I should tell everybody how they can learn about how to get
Mhm.
involved, offer some thoughts on this episode or any of the other
Mhm.
episodes they've seen, and maybe suggest some conversations they'd like us to have for
Yeah.
future episodes.
So they can definitely go to our website, conversationswithashaandsteve.com, or contact us on Facebook or Instagram. You can find us on there, and send us a message or drop a comment in the box below. If you're catching the replay of this, let us know as well,
Yeah.
and just give us some feedback, give us some topics. We get topics all the time,
Yeah.
whether it's so we try to cover as much as we can. So we'd love to hear from you, and thank everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in fact, the latest topic I wrote it down was, could we just have the conversation with Asha?
No, oh gosh, no. A monologue, you mean?
Monologue. I think that'd be great. I would tune into that. I really would. But well, and be sure to check out drashaprasad.com, and for me, ripplecentral.com. We've got great content that we both put out there. Dr. Asha's got some great programs that she's put together that you're not going to want to miss. You've got some great things that are happening right now that are awesome. So I should probably put that up on our banner for those of us that are actually seeing the video. It's drashaprasad.com. And yeah, I mean, we just appreciate you guys checking in with us and allowing us to have the space and time last month to not do a live stream. But we will be back very soon with another great conversation. We'll be live streaming it.
Sounds good, Steve. Well, listen, take care. I'll see you next week.
I will. All right. Take care. See ya. Thanks, everyone. Oh, we just had one last comment. Robert, thank you. Great show. Thanks for showing
Thanks,
up. We
Robert.
appreciate it. I will see you soon, my friend. All right. Talk to you soon, Asha.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.